So jQuery, like Marcus said earlier, jQuery is basically like the bootstrap for JavaScript. So so here's the thing with JavaScript. JavaScript is a pretty tough thing. Every browser has decided to implement JavaScript in a slightly different way. And so when you like build a site and you use JavaScript that you think is working, you can go to other websites or other browsers on the same website on a different browser and suddenly it's not working. And that can happen because of what is called cross-browser compatibility issues. Like if you're using Internet Explorer, especially, is the well-known offender for web development. Internet Explorer, especially older versions, are just awful. They had terrible support for JavaScript, CSS3, HTML5, like all kinds of problems. And also, in using JavaScript with the DOM, you end up doing things that are pretty repetitive, and they're super common tasks. So typing out things like document.getElement by ID, parentheses, then the ID name, it's such a common task, but it's so many characters to type like every single time. So out of kind of these issues was born jQuery. And jQuery not only makes dealing with the DOM and doing like browser JavaScript much more pleasant, but it also is cross-browser compatible. And so jQuery kind of solves some of those issues. It knows if the browser that's being used is Internet Explorer, and it will actually modify the way that it works so that it works on old versions of Internet Explorer or Safari or Firefox or Chrome, whatever you're using. So I'll show you first. We'll just spin up a quick project. And I'm going to get jQuery from a CDN. And I'm just going to take this uncompressed one, copy the script tag. Copy the wrong one. Oh, what?
Where did you get that script tag?
I just searched for jQuery. So if you go to code.jQuery.com.
Yeah, which one did you copy?
Oh, I clicked on uncompressed for jQuery 3.
Okay.
And I just took that script tag. Now, do I want it above or below my app.js?
Above.
Why?
Because it needs to read the jQuery before you add in your own.
Yeah, if I'm going to use jQuery in app.js, then the browser needs to know what jQuery is first. And since it reads top to bottom, I need to put it above my app.js. Okay, I'm going to make just let's do a paragraph tag with some lorem text. I'll give it an ID of text. And if I wanted to, or actually let's do this. Let's not do lorem text. If I wanted to put some text inside of this paragraph tag, how would I do that in regular JavaScript? Text. Yeah, or if it's just text, I should use text content equals whatever I want, right? Okay, there's my text, right? With jQuery gives you this global function called $. Okay, it's called jQuery. You can type out the entire word jQuery, lowercase j, capital Q. But to make it even shorter, they gave an alias to it, which is just $. So I can just say $. $. it's the jQuery global function, and it's a function so I can execute it. And when I put something inside, instead of having to say like get element by ID or get element by class name or get element by tag name or something like that, what they've decided to do is allow me as a string to put in a CSS selector. So for example, if I want an ID, I'm going to use a hash text. These characters here will do essentially the same thing as these characters here. So all it's saying is basically grab the element that has the ID of text. And it doesn't return to you exactly the same element that you get from plain JavaScript up here. For example, plain JavaScript up here has a property called text content. It's an object that has a property called text content. It kind of does like a jQuery wrapped version of that, which means that it has its own methods and everything that you just kind of have to learn as you go. So if I want to change the text content, I'm going to use a method called .text. And if I put inside here, this is from jQuery, what that will do is it will set the text to this string. Let's see if I refresh, it's doing the same thing. jQuery is full of these methods that are considered either getters or setters. And all that means is that you can use the same method to either get information that already exists or to set information to something. If I don't supply a parameter here to text, for example, if I console log this, it will be a getter. And so this section right here will select the element with the ID of text, and because I have no parameter here, it will just return to me the text that already exists in the in the text content of that element. So when this console logs, what should it be?
Blank.
Why?
There's something in there.
Yeah, it's going to get the text, all this text that's in here, which is nothing. And I think it'll be an empty string, but it might only show up as a blank line. Yeah. So it's hard to see. Let me do console log. This is text. Okay, so you can see there's nothing in there. It's empty. If I put some text here, refresh, then it will get the text that's in there. Even if I have text in here, what happens if I do text dot text, this is new text. Okay, when I refresh this, it totally replaces it. Does that make sense? I'm curious about, I'm wondering how you can, oh, it's a pen, that's right. What if I don't want to overwrite what's there, but I just want to add to it? jQuery has a method called append. And actually, I'm not sure if this will work. Oh yeah, it does. So it basically just, instead of replacing the text, yeah, it adds it to the end of the text that's there. Okay, jQuery is also really good. Actually, you know what? I don't think this is working the way we think it is. Oh, it is, okay. Yeah, you just put both inside there, inside the p tag. I want to know what happens. Well, no, I'm not going to worry about that. We'll get there. Okay, so what if I have the UL Okay, what if I make this unordered list? It's got a class of navbar, and I want to select the navbar.
It's gonna be $sign, parentheses. You still, yeah, there is dot
Quotes, dot navbar.
Yeah.
And I'm going to console log this whole object just so we can see it. What comes back? Okay, this is my, now, well, first of all, what data type came back?
Say, an array.
So why is it an array?
Because it changed it to an array.
Hmm. Let's do, okay, so if I console log this, the text came back as an object. So why is it when I do an ID, it comes back as an object, but when I do a class, it comes back as an array? What if I do this, get elements by class name, and I console log that? This is just plain old JavaScript again.
You didn't change
Okay, what came back? So why would get elements by class name give me an array?
Oh,
Because-
it could be multiple things in one class.
That's right, yeah. And you'll notice based on the name, it's not get element by class name, it's get elements by class name. Even if you only have one thing with that class in it, it's going to be an array, right, which we can see. The same thing happens with tag name. It's, let me that out. So notice all these. Get elements by class name, get elements by name, get elements by tag name. And tag name NS, I don't know what that means. So these are all plural, which means they're all going to give you an array of objects. Get element by ID will only give you one because it will just find the first element you have with that ID. Ideally, you should only have one thing on any given page with that ID. Okay? So the same thing goes with jQuery. When it's a class, it will return an array. Here we go, and it's got all of these properties. And where are we? Where are all the jQuery properties? Oh, it's in the prev object. Oh, maybe not. Anyway, I guess it does that differently. Do you have a question, Jordan?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. It's coming. I just don't know how to ask it.
Okay, so that's a different kind of selector. You can also use, so I don't know how in-depth you guys have gotten into input selectors, but you can do, or CSS selectors, but you can select based on the attributes of an HTML element.
Yeah.
So no, li would be the tag name, which I can do, by the way. I can say like $li like that. That's just the tag name. It'll select
Yeah,
all
but
list items.
If there is multiple others.
Yeah, so what I can do is say, for example, I want to select all ULs that have a class name of navbar, right? Just like CSS. You can do the same thing where you can say, like, I want to select all p tags with the ID of text, right? But with CSS, you can also say, I want to select all input boxes, and then we have shortcuts for class names, right? Dot, or shortcuts for IDs, which is hash. But what if I want to select a different property of an HTML thing? For example, a name property or a placeholder property. I could say, I want to select all inputs that have, and then in square brackets, I say a placeholder that is equal to, you know, your name here. And then in my HTML, I would have an input. Okay, we got type text, placeholder of your name here. I could also select all inputs with type text, and I would just say where the type equals text. And so forth. Okay, that's a little more, it's a little more advanced. You'll maybe need it every now and then, but just know that you can do that. Anything that you can do in CSS, you can do right here. You do the exact same selectors. So for example, if in jQuery I wanted to select all of the list items inside of navbar or unordered lists with the class of navbar, how could I do that? Let's say I have another UL. This one doesn't have a class of navbar. I want to select all of these three without selecting anything else.
So you do the UL dot navbar space li.
Space li, yeah. And that says all list items that are descendants of a UL with the class of navbar. Or I could do direct child, right, with the greater than, which if I had, you know, I don't know, a UL with an li in there, it would not select that one because it's not a direct child, but so forth. Okay, anyway, point is, just you can put CSS here, same selector for getting stuff. And that's great because it's really powerful that way. Let's see. Let's see. Pseudo selectors. Oh, and you can save these as variables. So you can say like var navbar li's or something equals, and then you can save it so that in the future you can reference all those elements just by using this variable name.
So I have a question about the append, which you showed us.
Uh-huh.
Is it possible to like append in HTML?
Uh-huh. It is. We're going to get there. We will get there.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Then there's a lot of like traversing things too. So for example, I might want to do something to my, let's say ul dot navbar space li, and maybe I want to do something to the parent element of these li's, which is what? UL, right? I could just select the UL with the class of navbar, but sometimes you need to be more programmatic than hard coding it in. You'll say like select this element and then give me its parent. So if I console log the parent, notice that it's the UL with the ID of navbar. That's what came back. And it gave me an array.
That's what I gave you.
Yep, it gave me an array, but it only has one item
Oh, she did LI.
in it.
So it's just doing the first. Okay.
Yeah. So for example, if I got rid of .navbar here, this would be multiple LIs across two different parents. And so it's returning an array. This .parent is returning probably an array with this element and this element. That's my guess. Maybe not. Seems like it should have. Oh, sorry, I was wrong. I don't know why. Returns an array.
It's because you didn't add
Oh.
console.
Of course. What did I change? Oh, I changed this one, huh? Yeah, there we go. UL with the ID of navbar and a UL. There's all kinds of selectors. This the thing that I linked in Slack, you should just kind of skim through and take a look at the different methods that are there. I mean, I could go on for like 3 days on all the crazy things that jQuery can do.
What's something else that you use a lot?
Yeah. Events. Let's talk about events. jQuery makes events really nice. Let's say I have a button. Whatever, name, no, say name, it's fine. Okay, so how do I select this button?
$, parentheses, quotes, hash, say dash name.
Okay, perfect. And then instead of doing something like .add event listener, the function, and then specifying that, I can say .click and pass it a function. Or I guess if it's called say name, I should. Name is Jimmy. I'm a butt. Okay, click me, and it runs that function.
So you use a semicolon at the end of the function. Or I guess this never makes sense.
.click is just one of the handlers. There's what? I mean, like mouse. I have to look them up. But there's like dot. It's probably mouse over.
Like a hover.
Yeah, so it'd be like hover. So when I hover over it, it says my name is Jimmy. There it goes, just doing it over and over.
Yeah, okay.
Mouse enter, mouse leave, and so forth. If you want to do multiple handlers, you can say .on and then specify which handlers you want in the beginning with a space in between. So I can say like mouse enter and mouse leave and click.
So you're doing multiple, at the same button?
Yep, I think so. Let's try. Mouse enter, it fires. Mouse leave, it fires. Mouse enter, it fires. Click, it fires. Oh, look, it does it like a separate one.
How did you write that again? Enter comma?
Just spaces.
Oh, spaces, okay.
I want to try something for my own sake. Okay. No. Okay. Sorry. Thanks for letting me indulge myself here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, cool. Okay. So it looks like you can also, if you want to specify all the different handlers that should happen separately with different functions, you can provide this an object. And the object, you say if it's click, then run this function. Oh, oops. Oh, right there. If it's mouse over, run this function. So mouse over, it says hovered. Click, it says clicked. So that's cool. I didn't know that. Learn something every day. Okay, all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah, this. Okay, we're going to talk later about the this keyword. I don't know how in-depth you guys have gotten, but the this keyword in JavaScript is one of the least understood and most confusing topics. So we're going to talk about that sometime. But let's say that I want to add a click handler to every single one of these LIs, and I want it to console log the text that's inside. So first, let's select all of these LIs. $. .navbar. just like CSS. Space li, yep. And if I say click function console log, well, let's just see that this is working first. Why do we keep going back to that? Okay. Click. Okay, so working is working, right? I can click on any of those top ones. None of these bottom ones work because they don't have the class of navbar. Okay, but I want it to display the text that's inside this specific element. So that's where I can use the keyword this. And I can use $ to select it and just say this. And let's do a console log of this dot text.
Sorry, can you explain this again?
Yep, so first, let's do this before the console log, so there's fewer braces. $ this is jQuery's way of saying which one of these many items did you click on. And once I have selected the correct one that I clicked on, then I can run .text and it will give me the text for that one thing that I clicked on. And then I'm just console logging it. So I click first, it says first. I click second, it says second, and third says third. Make this a little bigger.
Oh, she said on click, right?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So I said, look at all of the, basically add a click handler to all of these. Now remember, this returns an array, right? So add a click handler to every single one of these, and depending on which one you click is going to change the selector here. If I click on the first li, then it's going to be that specific list item element, and it's going to get the text from it. Maybe I set the text to be like clicked.
So first you change to click and you click on it? Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I could even do
Stuff like this, I'm like, I don't remember.
I could say, I can get even more creative with it. I could say var text equals this dot text, and say if text equals clicked, then set the text to unclicked, else set the text to clicked. So I grab whatever text is there. If it equals clicked, then set it to unclicked, and if it is equal to clicked, and if it's not equal to clicked, then set it to clicked. So let me do this. I click it, it says clicked. I click it again, unclicked.
Okay, go back to the code. Will you send it to us?
I'm trying to keep track of all this. Did you send those other files? Yeah. Yeah, I'll before I leave, I'll send this. Okay, what about, let's see. Inner HTML. Do you want to talk about inner HTML? So where text is basically a getter or setter for text content, .html is a getter or setter for HTML content. So I can do, let's see. Let's do, we're going to have an H3 with the ID of header. No, not an H3. Let's make it a div. The ID of, I don't know, stuff, to-dos. All right, so I want to select my div, same as before, $ hash to-dos. Then I'm going to say .html, and I can provide here a string HTML, like maybe an input with the type equal to checkbox. And I don't know, a paragraph tag with the text of thing to do. So when I refresh this page, oh, and it's a paragraph tag, so it's not next to it. We make it a span. Okay, and it just parsed that HTML and created HTML elements for me, just like inner HTML. So it's .html. So what if I do something like this, where I say, every time I click a button, I'm going to create a button that says add new to do. The ID of add to do, add dash to do. And I want to make it so every time I click that button, it adds a checkbox and a span tag next to, or as inside of my div with the list of to-dos. So this right now is like a container for to-do items. And every time I click this button, I want it to create a new set of elements inside here. Okay, let's walk through some logic with that. How can I break this problem down? First, I'll just do what I said, right? We're gonna select button. Okay, what's gonna come next? Okay, so add a click handler, right? And when it's clicked,
Then you need to add something, so it's adding as an end.
so I will end up appending, but am I appending to the button that I've clicked, that I've selected?
Oh, no, you need to
Select the div of to-dos, and then append some new HTML, right? All right, let's select our button.
So .html just.
It's kind of like inner HTML.
Okay.
Yeah, so it will, if I just use .html, it will
Okay,
replace
yeah, 'cause
everything.
I see that you have your tags in there. Okay. Sorry. Just clarify that.
Sorry, one second. Okay, sorry. Okay, where are we? Right here. Okay, someone help me select my button.
Add to do.
Yep, to do. Okay, and then we need to add a click handler.
Dot click.
Click. Okay, so every time the add to do button is clicked,
That you need to do the $sign,
$sign.
parentheses, and sorry.
and what needs to come before that?
Hash.
Yeah, hash to do's because it's an ID.
Sorry.
Here, let's see.
Dot append.
Would it be
Appends adding to the bottom. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Append, and then instead of appending just plain text, jQuery is so smart that I can just put my HTML right in there and it will create the elements for me. Get rid of that other example. Input type equals checkbox. Span. New to do item.
so append is gonna work for like just like text or HTML?
Uh-huh.
That's nice.
Yep.
It's really nice.
Okay, so I'm going to click add new to do, and there's my new to do item. And I click it again, and since it's a span, it's looking stupid, so I might do maybe append surround that whole thing in a div.
Hey, Bob, could you make a input and take the input like text that you wanted and put it as the new to do item?
You are just reading my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is kind of a dumb to-do list, right? So how could I make, instead of this hard-coded to new to-do item, how could I make this be real stuff? Yeah, so let's make an input. Input type equals text. Let's give it an ID of to-do item. Okay, let's call it new to-do. Let's not put a break there. Okay. So instead of typing in here as part of my string new to do item, what can I do? How can I get I guess we haven't gone over this.
So
So
if you get out of the quotation marks right there, would that do anything? Like,
Mhm.
just do, you can grab that element. Would it be $sign?
okay.
Then, hashtag
To do. And
it'd be $value, wouldn't it?
yeah, okay, so here is another thing. When do you use text content versus value? In regular old HTML, not jQuery anymore, but there's a property on elements called .text value, or sorry, text content, and there's a property on some elements called .value. What's the difference?
One's a number, one's a.
Not quite. So let's look at the HTML. What is the text content of this element?
Add new to do.
Yeah. What would be the text content of this element?
Have
It doesn't really have any, right? Because there's no like text displaying by an input box. But an input box is created for people to enter the thing that they want. So input boxes have a value property. Value is whatever was typed into the box. Okay, so in jQuery, they shorten it by saying .val, parentheses. If there's nothing in the parentheses, what does that probably mean?
Just get whatever it is.
It's a getter, get the value from the box. If I were to put something in here,
That would set the value.
it would set the value to that, which is not going to be super helpful to us, right? We don't want to like have them type it and then you click and it's like, just kidding, this is the new value. So this will say put inside between the opening span and the closing span, the value of what was typed into the input box. So let's take a look. I commented out that other HTML. Buy milk. Add new to do. Get things done. Add new to do. Blah, blah, blah. Add new to do. And so forth. Oh, you know what? I just thought of a good reason to have a setter. After I append, I might want to empty this box out. So then right after appending, I might set it to an empty string. And then they don't have to highlight, delete, type in new stuff. It can be 1, 2, 3. What if after clicking add new to do, I want to focus in on the box again so they don't have to click there, then click back? I think I can say jQuery, oops, add to do. I can select my button and I think I can say .focus. Or was it focus in? No, let's just try this. No. So let's look at this. jQuery focus on input. This is .focus.
Well, it's
No, that's on page load. Or trigger that event on an element. Focus with a handler, focus by itself. On focus, it's different. Target focus function, click target.focus. Clicks on trigger. Handler will also focus doesn't bubble. Well, I thought that would work. There's something very similar that does that.
Can you try and blur the button and then have it focus?
We can try. Oh, wait. Add to do is the button. I'm sorry. I just had selected the wrong one.
Yeah, that works on what I said.
Yeah. No, I just had to change this to new to do. I had selected the button,
Yeah.
so it did focus the button.
No, I really hear that, yeah.
Is that? Yeah, jQuery is awesome. Like I've basically in five lines created a to-do app, right? Now there's a bunch of problems with this. If I click add new to-do with nothing in it, it's creating empty to-dos. This is not very helpful. And yeah, so you get to play, you're gonna get to make one of these later, so I'm not gonna do everything.
But there's a way to prevent that.
Yeah, I mean, you just, what I would do is check to see if the value is empty, and then if it is, just put up a little pop-up that says you must type something in or don't do anything. All right, that out. CSS. Let's get rid of this. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, the write-up that I sent you doesn't have anything about CSS in it. Oh wait, yeah, it does. Oh yeah, okay. Here's some stuff. You can use jQuery to set styles. So let's say I have a paragraph tag with some text. I'll give it an ID. It's going to be paragraph. I'm going to select it, same as before. And let's say when I click it, I want it to change red. Okay, so before, do you remember how to do this in plain JavaScript? It was like document.getElementById or with the ID name dot style dot color equals, red. With this, with jQuery, you can basically do the same thing. I could select the hash para again, or I could just use this, right? Because it's this element that I'm clicking. And then I say change the CSS property of color to red. So the first parameter is which property. The second parameter, if you decide to put it, is the value that you want to set it to. So CSS is a little different than text or HTML or val in that the getter includes one parameter and the setter includes two. Whereas val, the getter is 0 and the setter is 1, right? Because CSS requires you to tell which parameter are you getting. So if I do this, I could like console log this and it would just give me the default color, or I could set it to red. So I click the text and it turns red. Okay.
That would reset on.
Yeah, when I reset the page or refresh the page, it'll go away. Let me see something. Oh, great. Okay. I could also, so this is right from the JavaScript setting the CSS for something. What I could do is do a add class. So I need to create a CSS page now. I'm going to add a class of .red, which just sets the color of something to red. Pretty straightforward. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say every time this button is clicked, add the class red. So I'm going to inspect this element. Okay, it's got an ID of para, and I'm going to click it. And now it has a class of red added to it. And because of the CSS rule for .red that I wrote, it changed it to the color red.
That happened if you use admin to do it, so and make this red.
This is now broken.
Did you comment it out?
Yeah, I think I did.
So when you do .add class, you don't need to put in the dot rounders.
Correct, yeah, because it knows it's a class, we just give it the
Yeah,
name.
okay.
There's also a remove class, which just does the opposite. Scope, oops. It's missing an array for you. Remove class. Let's say blue. I'm going to add a class down here. Blue, color is blue. And then on my HTML, let's just say by default, this paragraph has a class of blue. And I click it, it removes the class of blue and adds the class of red. By default, it's blue. Click it, it's red. Now, if I didn't remove the class, what would happen? Starts out as blue.
Default black or whatever the default is.
It just adds another class to it. So now it has both blue and red. So why is it showing up as blue?
So that's the first one. It doesn't have specific.
Wait, what did you do?
It's actually the second one. Because it's reading,
Oh, okay.
reading top to bottom.
But
So I gave it, I hard-coded the class of blue, and I commented out the part where I removed the class of blue. So when I click it, it starts out as blue, I click it, it just adds red. But the reason blue is still showing up is because blue is below red. And so first, like if we were to pause it partway through or something, it would turn it red, but then it would turn it blue immediately. If I put this above red, I click it, now it turns red. I think there's a toggle class. Is there a toggle class in jQuery?
yeah, I hope it was.
jQuery toggle class. Let's try toggle class. So I'm going to say toggle class red. And I think what that'll do is if it has red, it will remove it. If it doesn't have it, it will put it there. And let me get rid of the blue. I'm just not there yet. There we go. So if you think of like a to-do list, maybe you want it so that if the user checks a box, it like it turns it gray and it crosses it out or something like that, makes it italic. And therefore it's like a lot easier to see which items have been checked, not just based on the checkbox, but also the text, like the classes that are added to an element. Okay, jQuery is extremely powerful. We've like skimmed the surface. There's toggle class. Width, you can get or set the width of an element, the height of an element. I mean, anything you can do in CSS, you can do in jQuery. Which you use CSS to style something, you know, at the get-go. You don't want to like use jQuery to load all of your styles. Like you'll still use CSS to style everything, but your app can now, your site can now be like much more dynamic based on user interaction. So you can make lots of changes. You could do this in plain JavaScript, just now it's much easier in jQuery. Are we talking about Ajax now? We're doing that later, I think, right?
Yeah.
I mean Ajax with jQuery.
No. This is the first introduction.
jQuery Ajax, okay. Any questions about jQuery? It's pretty awesome. I mean, it's when we get to Angular, like we're basically going to put jQuery in the past, but revel in jQuery now, and then you'll revel in Angular. How much even better Angular is later. But jQuery will just make things easier, and keep in mind too, it'll just help your sites be much more cross-browser compatible. It's like a super awesome benefit. A lot of people will say not to, like, if you're just doing a really simple site, they'll be like, don't download a huge library like jQuery just to get your site to work, you know, with really basic stuff. And like, I can see where that might be the case in really, really, really simple apps, kind of like what you had for your pre-course evaluation projects. But the benefit of having the cross-browser compatibility is so good that it just seems, to me, it seems worth it to like always use it and always include it. But anyway, just know you should still keep learning regular JavaScript and DOM JavaScript, but jQuery is awesome. They did though, I think, actually I'm not sure if this was based on jQuery or not, but JavaScript did add jQuery-like selectors where you can now say document.query selector, and then use CSS here. So you can say like dot or hashtag text or dot text. And so query selector was introduced. I'm not sure if it's because of jQuery or if they just happen to do that, but
That's in JavaScript?
this is plain JavaScript, includes query selector. It's a little wonky in that, for example, if I say query selector dot navbar, it will only return the first instance that it found with the class of navbar. If I want it to be an array, I have to say query selector all. So I guess it just gives you control over whether it comes back as an object or an array. But just keep that in mind.
Wait, what is all this?
Query selector all returns an array. So if I want to select everything with the class of navbar, then that'll give me that. If I say just query selector with the class of navbar, it will return the very first instance that it finds. At least I'm like 90% sure that's true. Query selector is also a bit slower. So if you have to do like hundreds of query selectors real fast, then it's probably better to do get element by ID because it's faster. Going to select this over. Do you want me? I should probably go over jQuery Ajax now since it's on the schedule, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's some code you can use as reference. And we are going to let's take like a really quick 5-minute break, and then we're going to talk about Ajax in jQuery really quick. jQuery has its own way of doing Ajax, so you don't have to do like the new XML HTTP request and XHR dot on ready state change when ready state equals, you don't have to do all of that. jQuery makes it a lot nicer. Okay, for the recording, really quick, I'm just showing you the way we did Ajax before. That's basically it. And then it was just do stuff here, right? It was like get the data, parse it as JSON, create elements, and append the elements to the other elements and so forth. So with jQuery Ajax, we won't have to do any of that. Instead, you're going to use the jQuery selector, the jQuery function, and we're actually going to use a method of that because it's an object. We're going to say jQuery.ajax, and that's a method. And I'm going to pass to this method a configuration object, and you'll see these quite a bit through the rest of your time and as programmers. Basically what it's saying is I'm passing in options here that allow me to further specify how this should run. So I'm going to say the URL that I'm calling out to. Let's do the Star Wars API. Swappy.co. URL is that. Okay. The method, what do you think the method is going to be? What are we talking about when we talk about method in the case of HTTP?
Get.
Yeah, so get is an example of a method, right? There's also post, put, delete. Those are the HTTP methods. So that's what it means. Like, what method should I use? Well, I want to use get. So let's see. Wait, this says it's type. Is that right? That's not right. Well, oh, this is .get. 1 second. jQuery Ajax. In the write-up that Eric selected. I just want .ajax. Here we go. Settings. Oh my gosh, there's so many settings. Yeah, it shouldn't be. Oh, it can be type. It's an alias for method. It's for old versions of jQuery. Do you want to go in and edit that so it doesn't say type, it says method? Okay, all kinds of cool stuff you can add here. There's also a property called success. And what success means is when you successfully come back, run this function. And here I'm defining an anonymous function. But you could also do it separately. And I'm just trying to remember function. Oh, it receives JSON. No, JSON. And then we're going to console log that JSON. Okay, so, and we could call, this is a function parameter, so I could call this data or whatever I want. Okay, let me open my dev tools. And here's that data. And it looks like it's already a JavaScript object, so I don't even think it's JSON. I think it came as JSON, but then jQuery was smart enough to do the parse for you, because you'll almost never want just raw JSON from your API. So here we got all the information. console log data. And there's my results, and this is the people from the Star Wars people list. So in just these few lines, I was able to do the same thing that I did before. Success basically says, if you were successful, then run this function. There's also one called error, where you can define a function of what to do. I think it receives an error object. I wonder if I can force this to error by giving like a bad URL. Yeah. Response text, detail not found. Status 404, right? Well, not found. This is the status text, detail not found. That's the error object. So there's like error.status text and so forth. So if you want to provide an error. Okay, any questions on $.ajax? This one is slightly different because you use the dot there. For everything we've done so far, it's just been $ parentheses. This is $.ajax. There are some shortcut methods for this. Because it's so common to just specify the method, you can say $.get. And I'll show you what this looks like. The first parameter is the URL, because that's absolutely required. And then the second parameter, you can do a set of options if you want, little configuration object, but that's optional. You could also do a function here. What does this remind you of? What kind of function would we call this?
What was the question again?
What kind of function would we call this? And what does this remind you of from past lessons? What was that? I can't hear you. It's not an event listener.
It's just an empty function.
Hey, Bob, isn't it a callback function?
It's a callback function. Yeah, so notice that .get is a method. The first parameter is this long guy. This is, let me get rid of this because that's going to break. It's the first parameter is the string URL. The second parameter is this function. It's an anonymous function, and because I'm passing this function directly into another function, a method, it's a callback function. Now, why do you think it's important for me to have a callback function? And this is going to get data. And let me get rid of this one. So why do you think that this is a good instance of having, or why this is a useful place to have a callback function? What's the benefit of having a callback function? Let me do this. Let me say function data. All I'm doing is I'm putting this into a named function. Okay, do I want parentheses here or no?
No,
Why not?
because that one is.
Because it would run it instantly, right? Well, why don't I want to run it instantly?
Because
You're waiting for the data to get back.
Yeah, this get call isn't something that just happens instantaneously and then I can continue with my JavaScript. So I pass to it a function, a callback function that says, I know that this is going to take a little while. So whenever you're ready, then execute that function. So let's say down here, okay, console log waiting a bunch of times. This data is going to console log after all of these console logs here because the callback function says, don't worry about executing me right now, continue on doing what you needed to do, and whenever you get done, whenever you successfully get data back, then run this function. And so when I see this, I get all these waitings, and then after what probably in computer time is eons, right? It finally comes back with the callback function, and it console logs the data. So this is like callbacks 101, right? This is when callbacks are perfect for use because it's going to take a while to get the data. And so we want to say, here's what you do when you get back, but in the meantime, I'm going to continue running my code. I think I can specify that it shouldn't do things asynchronously. Yeah, async defaults to true. So watch this. Let's do.
Wait, so when you did that first one before you put in here data, was it function without parameters? Or the function did have parameters?
The one that I had here,
Yeah.
it had a
before you
parameter.
When you just did function.
Yeah, it had a parameter. It was like this, but without a name. That's an anonymous function. This is a named function, but they both have the data parameter. One of the options I can pass here is async false. And I've never done this, but let's see. Well, let me see what this does. No, that didn't work. Excuse me. Let me try it up here. Oh yeah, here. No, it didn't work. Oh wait, that's an error because this. Okay, look at that. No, that's still an error. What's going on? That's funny. What's the stats text here? Failed to execute. Send on exclamation. Oh, synchronous XML HTTP request on the main thread is deprecated. So apparently I can't even do this anymore. But you can see what happens is it does wait for the response to come back before it runs any more JavaScript. So because I said async false, apparently the browser's just like, no, we're not going to let you do that. Because that could take, like, let's say this takes 30 seconds to get there and come back, which is an eternity. That's way longer than it usually ever will. But if it were to take that long, then we would just be stuck. Like the JavaScript would be totally stuck, the user would be totally stuck, they couldn't interact with the page, and so forth. So you'll never want, as far as I know, you'll never want async to be true or false. It'll always be true by default. So, but it works, except it's deprecated. I'm gonna say so if there's a $.get, what do you think that means for other methods? What other methods could you guess exist?
Post.
Post, $.post. You pass the URL. You also pass the data. Okay, the request body if you're sending out data. There's also delete, I believe, and put. Okay. All right. Did you guys talk about transitions and animations
I was going to do that right
after this? Okay. So did you do parse JSON? I did that yesterday.
So we should be all caught up.
jQuery pest control.
I was going to send that after this. I should have sent that with them.
Do you want me to wait and send that?
Go ahead and send it out with the Pokemon list.
Okay, so with the exercises on this, this is the first one, jQuery pest control. You're basically going to take Mario pest control and you're going to convert it to be in jQuery. So everywhere you see like document.getElementById or whatever, you're going to make sure to include the jQuery script tag, and you're going to use jQuery instead of all of those selectors. Okay? And where Mario Pest Control was a project, this is actually only an exercise. So just put it in your exercises folder. I think it also includes some other stuff. Oh yeah, add a button for nighttime viewing. This is pretty fun. Like this one, you can basically have a button that when you click it, it changes styles. It changes like a ton of styles. So you can make it like a nighttime viewing one. Some students have done an entirely separate nighttime CSS file, and then found a way to make it just switch out the CSS file that it uses. So instead of like changing the styles, like adding CSS rules that change like, you know, I don't know, 50 different styles on your page, like changing the font color and background color or the background image or whatever, it just swapped out CSS files. So that's something you could do. Let's see, pipe down sound, so you can like use some sounds to do stuff. Have a little fun with it. Yeah. You can toggle back and forth between light mode and dark mode. So that's jQuery pest control. And then jQuery Pokemon list. What's that?
Do we have to name it exactly this? But it's pretty specific as to what we need to name it.
Where?
So you can name it jQuery pest control.
Oh no, you can name it. Just name it. Just like create a copy of it though. Don't just refactor the original one. Actually, it probably doesn't matter if they refactor the original one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay, then to practice Ajax, you're gonna do jQuery Pokemon list, which using Ajax and the Pokemon API, you're going to get a list of all the Pokemon, and you're gonna just display them in a nice, neat, orderly way. And don't just put them in like an unordered list or an ordered list with bullet points. Like try to make it look good. You can use Bootstrap if you want. And then there's extra credit with that one if you want to for fun. You can make it so if you click any of the names, it'll do a Google search for their names. So you click like Squirtle and it'll do a Google search for Squirtle or Charmander or whatever. Okay? What?
I don't know how we're gonna have time to do it.
Yeah.
All this stuff that's been approved on Trello, it's so much easier to keep up with.
Oh, have you been pushing to
Yeah,
Trello?
I'll push them right now.
We'll push it right now.
Good news is tomorrow and the next day are pretty open for like catch-up days. Because we just stacked up a lot of exercises and projects today. So you're gonna have a lot of time to work on these things.
Yeah, there's pretty much no new content for the next 2 days because I knew that it would get overwhelming right now. So the next 2 days are catch-up days. Except there is one more exercise that we assign tomorrow.
But that's it. In the next 2 days, we're gonna have one more exercise.
Yeah.
So.
Normally he's got a comment, like, that's silent.
Yeah, I'm like typing everything as fast as I can and trying to understand it and have it to review later.
I look okay.
When you first do this,
Oh, okay.
I can do it today. You just
Oh,
Yes.
You recorded this entire, like, lesson?
Yes. In fact, I need to stop recording.